planet is never still. Beneath the tranquil curve of its horizon, life moves, endless, restlessly, through skies filled with stormy light, through deserts reduced to dust, beneath oceans as black as night. Billions are in motion. The wings beat against the wind. The hooves echo across the plains. In all directions, every moment, some creature is looking for warmth, light, security. Migration is not an escape. It is resistance written in flesh, memory carried in the bones. It is the oldest story that the Earth still tells. But the path to survival is fraught with losses. For every Arctic tern that finds the distant pole, another falls into the sea unseen. For every wildebeest that reaches the green grass, one calf is lost to crocodiles. For every monarch that folds its wings under the oyamel trees, 1,000 lie wrinkled. The cost is high, but that's the price of life's drive. This is the story of the world's most extreme migrations. We started high in the north. The wind coming from the Arctic is as sharp as glass. It passes through the fog and the sea spray, curls around ice-covered cliffs. On narrow ledges, a colony of Arctic terns, Sterna paradisea, gathers. It is a storm of white wings, restless cries, and red-tipped beaks. Each bird weighs less than a bar of soap, but the flock as a whole is enormous, blocking out any ray of sunlight as it takes flight. The summer sun never sets here. It burns low and cold, gilding its feathers as it rises, turns once, twice, and then begins the longest journey on Earth. The Arctic tern does not migrate to escape the cold. It moves in search of light. It lives in summer, eternally. From the frozen north, it travels south with the winds. It glides over the grey waves, tracing invisible paths across the globe. The world unfolds beneath it in colour and movement. Glaciers collapsing into the sea, whales emerging from the foam, continents vanishing into mist. It slips always. He hunts during the day. The tern floats on the water, then folds its wings and dives, skimming across the surface. A silvery flash. It's a sand eel writhing in its beak. It shakes the salt off its feathers and rises again. For days, weeks, months, this rhythm continues. Flight, diving, feed. The waves rise like mountains, white crests whipped by hurricane-force winds. The Arctic tern advances, beat of wings after beat of wings, feather against the storm. Sleep arrives fragmented. One hemisphere of the brain rests, the other explores, watching out for predators, due to the sudden collapse of a giant wave. For the changing moods of the wind, the storms arrive without warning. The tern struggles every second, its muscles howling, its feathers soaked, its body overwhelmed by the water. Many fail here. Feathers too wet, wings too exhausted to hold on. A body spirals down into the tumultuous sea. Another one crashes into the undulating waves. These losses are inevitable. Their death feeds the plankton, feeds the fish, feeds the birds yet to come. Above the chaos, a skua circles. Its dark silhouette contrasts sharply with the silvery waves. A piercing, unwavering gaze spots a hesitant tern. The tern senses the shadow, try to perform banking transactions, to twist, riding on the wind. But its small body is already in danger. The skua dives. Talons outstretched, beak slicing through the rain-laden air. The tern jerks sideways, evades for an instant, then staggers again. Feathers fly as the predator attacks. The claws dig into the wet wing and the beak tears it apart. Some terns are swallowed by the air. Others crash, battered, into the sea. Scavengers below, like fish and plankton, take advantage of the sudden feast. The skua hovers on the waves, twisting against the wind, tearing, feeding as the storm rages. This is the double challenge of migration, the elements and the hunters. Every storm, every wave, every shadow in the sky takes its toll. Thousands die from exhaustion, hypothermia, and hunger. Thousands more are snatched away by skuas that prey on the weak, the slow, the weary. Yet every fallen tern sustains life elsewhere. Their bodies feed plankton. What food for fish? What do seabirds and larger predators eat? The days pass in an unrelenting succession. The terns are battered, their wings nicked by the salt and the storm, their feathers torn without energy. Some huddle momentarily on the crest of the waves, floating, trembling before launching themselves into the next stretch. A skua attacks again. Lightning cleaves the sky, water crashes against their wings, and the wind bends their bodies to its will. Even so, the survivors press on. Even in the most violent hours, the migration continues. The Arctic fades behind them, vanishing into the mist. The equator is approaching. The light changes. The clean, white glow of the north gives way to a deep gold. The air thickens, becoming humid and vibrant with heat. Below, the ocean shifts from steel to sapphire, warm, vast, and restless. Storm clouds bloom on the horizon. Here, the terns enter a different world. Beneath them, the tropical ocean teems with movement. Flying fish emerge from the surface, gliding in shimmering arcs before vanishing again into the shadows. Dolphins ply the waves, churning them upward, hunting in packs. Whales leap in the distance. For a moment the sky reflects the sea, both spinning, both alive. But beauty hides danger. In the air, frigate birds hover, long-winged black silhouettes that never touch the water. With a single turn, they dive, forcing smaller birds to release their prey, snatching it before it reaches the waves. A tern breaks away from the group, the fish glinting in its beak. A frigate follows. It submerges. The tern writhes and beats its wings frantically. The frigate bird attacks once, twice, and the tern's prize falls tumbling, lost at sea. The predator gives no further pursuit. It drifts back upstream. The heat intensifies. The wind becomes unstable, picking up and subsiding without warning. Storms arise from clear skies and walls of rain sweep across the ocean until it is flat. The terns climb higher, seeking cooler air. Below them, equatorial currents swirl, rich in plankton and life. But for the terns, there is little rest here. The heat saps their strength. Salt crusts their feathers. Their fat reserves dwindle. Some falter. One descends too low, its wings heavy and its feathers slippery with moisture. The air offers no lift. It falls, hitting the sea like a stone. The waves carry it away. Tiny fish feed on its body. Hours later, plankton will proliferate in that same spot. Even so, most of them endure. The survivors carry on. Every bird knows, somehow, the way, without a compass, without a map. Just instinct. Memory. The weak pull of magnetic fields. Their route winds along the African coast, through deserts where the sand meets the tide, past coral-fringed islands. They will not stop. They cannot. To rest too much is to die. Their wings cut through the wind. Thousands of kilometers are left behind in silence. Then, one morning, the sea turns white. The air grows more intense, heavy with salt and cold. Icebergs drift by. The tern has arrived in Antarctica for its second summer. The journey from pole to pole is over, but it will soon begin again. Here, the bird lands for the first time in months. Its red paws land on a floating ice platform. Around them, penguins waddle and squawk, seals bask in the sun, and skuas flutter in the pale sky. For a moment it rests, its eyes half closed and its body trembling with exhaustion. In this frozen land, the tern feeds once more. They dive between the cracks in the ice, snatching small fish and krill from the surface. The Antarctic waters are rich. Food abounds, and for a time the air is filled with their songs. It is summer again, and the light here will not fade for months, but the price of such a distance is very high. 70,000 kilometers, the entire width of the planet every year. Many will not make it back. Predators lurk along the way. Hunters, seagulls, sharks, and men with nets stretching from horizon to horizon. The slightest miscalculation, a change in the current, a lack of wind, can end the journey in an instant. Even so, they press on. It's who they are. Throughout its life, a bird can fly the distance to the moon and back, not once, twice. And it will always return to the same cliff, the same nest, the same mate waiting in the Arctic light. Generation after generation, they trace the same invisible circuit. In the far north, the sea ice melts once more. The cliffs are bare and resonant. But soon faint specks appear against the sky. First some, then hundreds, then thousands. They return as they left, swift and silent, cutting their way through the mist and wind. The tundra bursts into a brief, fierce life, moss, wildflowers, and insects. And in this short, golden season, the Arctic terns arrive, their wings trembling with exhaustion. They land, scream, and begin to nest. Their young are born in a matter of weeks. Furry, grey, and fragile, they gaze toward the horizon. Their parents feed them, care for them, and teach them to hop. And soon as the Arctic summer fades and the light begins to diminish again, the young will follow. They will rise with the same winds, fly the same way, facing the same storms. This rhythm continues in both hemispheres. On another continent, the earth begins to tremble. A low, distant thunder grows and grows until it becomes a living tide. Here, a million helmets begin to move. Dawn breaks over the Serengeti like the slow opening of an ancient eye. The air trembles with the low hum of life. Helmets stamping, tails moving, breath rising in the fog. Under a bruised sky, the earth is restless. The dust spreads in waves across the plains, shining gold in the first light. And then, as if summoned by the wind, they begin to move. The wildebeest, Conochetes taurinus, numbering over 1 million, charge forward, heads down, horns flashing. The sound of their movement is like thunder. The ground trembles beneath their feet. They are not just animals in motion. They are the pulse of the earth itself. For these creatures, migration is not a choice. It is an inheritance. The rains have begun to subside in the south, and with them the grass that sustains this endless tide of life. Somewhere far away, lightning flashes across a distant sky. The smell of dampness lingers there. The herds sense it across miles of plains, through the wind and the heat, and so they follow it, a vast, unbroken line of movement stretching from one horizon to the other. Calves just weeks old sway beside their mothers. Her thin legs tremble, but the pack cannot wait. The strong advance. The weak struggle to keep up. Predators watch from the tall grass. They move like shadows through the gold. From the shimmering heat, the lions emerge, their muscles tense beneath their brown skin, their tails swishing in perfect rhythm. The pack senses the danger. The helmets accelerate. The dust explodes. A lioness emerges from her hiding place, running crouched low, her eyes fixed on a calf. A chase erupts across the plain. The lioness leaps, her claws digging into the flesh. The calf falls. The herd closes in. Around her, the herd continues running. In a matter of seconds, it's over. One death will feed many. Hyenas, wild dogs, and cheetahs also take their share of the herd. As the day grows warmer, the wildebeest disperse across the savannah, grazing as they move. They lower their heads, their mouths tearing at the dry grass, their tails flicking to ward off flies. Zebras mingle among them. Together they form an uneasy alliance. We see the danger first. The other one moves faster. The chicks nurse as they walk, brushing against their mother's flanks. Their cries are soft and plaintive. High above, the vultures circle wide, patiently and deliberately. They know what comes next. For every 1,000 that survive, dozens will fall. To hunger until exhaustion. To the jaws that wait in the grass. As evening falls, the heat descends upon the land. The herds advance slowly, panting, their flanks heaving with exertion. Dust coats their hides, tinging their brown bodies grey. But then the wind shifts. The scent of rain returns. Heads are raised, ears twitch nervously. Somewhere further ahead, the thunder rumbles again. Energy surges through the ranks, and the movement begins anew. The plains come alive once more, a living river flowing north. Days later, the pack reaches its first major obstacle, the Grumeti River. From its muddy banks, the air is thick with tension. The water moves slowly, dark, misleading. Beneath the surface, crocodiles stalk, motionless but vigilant. Their yellow eyes pierce the waterline, following every tremor, every hoof that comes too close. The first wildebeest halt at the bank. They drink, hesitant. The others crowd behind them. They keep going. Then one jumps. This simple act shatters the stillness. The river erupts. Bodies crash into the water. The pack follows, plunging headlong into the current, driven by fear and instinct. The crocodiles leap upward, their jaws snapping shut with the sound of bones breaking. The water turns white, then red. A calf squeals. The sound is brief, drowned out by the roar of the crossing. Some drown, trampled by others. Some are swept away by the water, yet for every calf that falls, another reaches the other bank. Dripping, panting, alive, the living climb over the bodies of the dead. When the last hooves leave the water, the banks are littered with carcasses, a feast for crocodiles, vultures, and marabou storks. Within hours, the air is thick with insects. The river, rich in silt and blood, will nourish the grasslands downstream. In the following days, the survivors move on and spread across the northern plains. The grass grows green again, lush and tall, teeming with life. The mothers graze tirelessly, regaining their strength. The calves become bolder, running through the rain. Lightning flashes across the sky and thunder answers from below. Storm and hooves intertwine, but the circle never ends. When the rains stop again, the herds will head south, retracing their steps for hundreds of kilometers. The same rivers, the same dangers, the same losses. Year after year, generation after generation, the pattern remains. It is the heartbeat of the Serengeti, 1.5 million wildebeest. Always on the move. Becoming forever the land they nourish, their migration shapes the world around them. As they graze, they cut the grass that would otherwise burn in the dry season fires. As they move, their hooves break up the soil, burying the seeds. When they die, they nourish not only predators, but also the earth itself. The minerals in their bones enrich the plains. Their remains nourish the rivers that, in turn, will feed the grass of the next generation. A single wildebeest will travel more than 800 kilometers during its lifetime, traversing a landscape as vast as any ocean. Without it, the Serengeti would fall silent. Night has fallen. The sun sinks into a cloud of dust, tinting the horizon with fire. Long, thin silhouettes stretch across the plains. The herds slow their pace, easing their movement with the fresh air. Calves huddle close to their mothers, resting their heads against their warm flanks. For a few hours, the great march comes to a halt. The only sounds are breathing, soft grunts, and the rustling of the grass. But in the distance, another storm is brewing. The wind brings back the smell of rain. They will rise soon. Soon the thunder will return. A similar struggle is unfolding miles away, not in the air, not on land, but in the water. The Pacific dawn shines silver. Beneath the surface, the sea is alive and in motion. Thousands of shapes shine like coins in the light. Everyone knows where they need to go. Sockeye salmon, Oncorhynchus nerca, born in calm freshwater pools, return home, leaving behind the vast saltwater jungle. Something ancient draws them in. It's a kind of magnetic map, a scent they remember from birth. The river carries him downstream. The ocean fades behind them, replaced by the cold breath of river mouths. The current quickens, pressing against them like a living wall, but they press on, muscles tense and tails beating in time. Their journey begins here. This is not a return to survival, but to the end. For the salmon, the last act of life is upstream. At first, the water is wide and slow-moving. Seals patrol the estuary, stylized shadows gliding beneath the surface, waiting for stragglers. Gulls hover in the air, talons outstretched, their cries slicing through the air, searching for flashes of red. The salmon remains in the depths. Their red bodies shimmer when sunlight pierces the shallow waters, each scale reflecting a fragmented sky. They swim in schools, drawn together instinctively. This gives them strength and speed. When one seal leaps, snapping its jaws, the school explodes. A silver whirlpool spins, twists, divides, and reforms. The predator misjudges the eddy. A single fish darts swiftly to one side and escapes. Above, a seagull swoops down with its talons, but the water's resistance scatters its prey. However, an unfortunate lagging salmon transforms into a crimson flash as the seal pulls it away from the current. Others venture into deeper channels, creating barriers, forcing the predator to chase it and thus tiring its muscles. Upstream, the rapids roar over the rocks and salmon leap in spectacular arcs. Bears wade, claws sharp, jaws snapping. Eagles swoop down, talons sharp, but the collective movement of the school, with tight spirals, sudden dives, and leaping arcs, deflects many attacks. The school moves as one. However, some fall, feeding the predators. The water rises, sweeping away the survivors. Every kilometer they travel becomes harder. The water narrows, rocks rise like teeth. The current thickens, pushing them back. Days pass. The scales begin to lose their silvery sheen. The long, thin bodies that once traversed the ocean depths are now beginning to change. Hormones flood their veins, transforming them for the final battle. They arch their backs, their jaws curl cruelly, and their flesh turns crimson. The males hunch over and dent, their mouths twisted like weapons. The females bear the weight of the eggs in their bellies. They jump over the waterfalls. tails whipping against the current. The water broke around him in a cloud of white dew. Again and again they retreat, stunned by the river's force. Yet each time they rise again, surging upward in furious bursts of power. The sound of their effort fills the valley, the snap of their tails, the hiss of the rushing water, and the muffled roar of persistence. The bears wait on the banks, their eyes fixed on the red glow of the torrent below. A young brown bear wades into the stream, claws out. One strike and a salmon leaps from the water. It thrashes once, twice, then lies still. The bear tears at its flesh, leaving the head and bones for crows, eagles, and foxes to find. Even in death, the salmon's journey continues. Its nutrients nourish everything the river touches. Those who escape venture deeper inland, passing through cedar and pine forests. Eagles fly low, their talons striking the water. The air vibrates with the buzzing of insects drawn to the decaying matter. Beneath the surface, bodies collide with each other, dented, bleeding, driven. Even so, they continue to rise. Even so, they don't stop. Finally, they reach the streams where they were born, narrow rivulets that meander through the gravel and stones. Here, the water runs clear and cold, rich in oxygen, perfect for the next generation. The females begin to dig nests, fanning the gravel with their tails until hollows appear. The males hover nearby, jaws closed in a brief and brutal fight. They fight not to live, but to die first. The battles are silent, save for the hiss of the churning water. Teeth tear, flesh rips, blood muddies the stream. When the nests are ready, the females release their eggs, hundreds miles. The males move alongside them, releasing milk into the current. Life begins anew in this very place where it ends. The eggs sink into the gravel, hidden beneath stones and silt. And all around them the parents weaken. Their colors turn scarlet and ash. Their eyes cloud over. Their fins tear. They drift away, no longer fighting the current. Their bodies are carried by the same water they once defied. Within days, the river is filled with death. Corpses line the banks, white bellies in the sun. But this is not a loss. It is a transformation. Bears drag them into the forest. Eagles tear them apart in the branches. The rain washes their remains to the ground. The nitrogen from its meat seeps into the roots of the trees. Years later, that nitrogen will return to the river when those same trees fall. The cycle is complete. The salmon dies, but its essence endures in the valley, in every living thing that grows near the stream. And beneath the stones, the next generation waits. The tiny eggs tremble as life stirs inside. Days pass, then weeks. Finally, tiny, translucent fry emerge. They drift through still pools, feeding on the last remnants of their yolk. As spring arrives, they move downstream, past the bones of their parents, toward the wide, shimmering waters of the lower reaches. The outbound journey begins as quietly as the return home ended. They will grow in lakes and then move to the sea. They will swim across thousands of kilometers of ocean, tracing invisible paths beneath the waves. Some will cross the North Pacific to Japan, Russia, and Alaska. They will feed on plankton, krill, and other small prey. And then, in 4 years, maybe 5, the call will come again. Magnetic attraction, the smell of stone and cedar in the birthplace. Of the millions who left, only a few will return. The cost is immense, the reward is eternal. The river depends as much on their death as on their life. Without them, bears starve, eagles scatter, the forest vanishes. But with them, these ecosystems thrive. As the last salmon sinks beneath the current, its body begins to dissolve. The scales float like sparks, the meat softens, the bones turn white, trapped among the reeds. The insects arrive, and the river carries away what's left. From the ocean, beyond the river's mouth, a wave breaks the surface. Small wings catch the wind, delicate, certain. Morning dawns over the vast plains of North America. With light comes movement. The tiny wings open with a tremor, catching the first breath of the day. The monarch butterfly, Danaus plexippus, no heavier than a paper petal and no larger than a child's palm, rises into the air. Its orange and black wings flutter in the breeze. The air is thin, the world vast, but the monarch keeps flying. This is the beginning of one of the greatest journeys on Earth. The journey spans the length of a continent. From the milkweed prairies of Canada to the high forests of central Mexico, the monarch follows invisible paths. It will fly thousands of kilometers, crossing rivers, mountains, deserts, and cities. However, the butterfly that begins this journey will never see its end. Each generation carries the torch only part of the way. The first hatches in the warmth of spring, drinks from the flowers, mates and lays eggs before dying within weeks. From those eggs, another generation emerges, pale and trembling at first, then vibrant and confident. They continue south, driven by the same instinct. By the time the fourth generation takes flight, summer is over. The air grows cold. The days grow shorter. These last survivors will do what no one before could: complete the journey. They will return to a forest their ancestors once knew. They rise in bright waves, orange clouds floating over fields of corn and wildflowers. Their wings catch the sun and scatter it in coppery flashes. They are drawn southward, propelled by air currents that lift them higher than eagles. Winds whip their wings. Rain drenches them. Some fall, brought down by storms. Others drift off into the oceans, exhausted, their wings silently folded beneath the waves. But even in death, they serve life. Their bodies feed birds and beetles, and their dust returns to the earth to nourish the next milkweed bloom. The survivors move on. Across Texas, through the valleys of the Sierra Madre, they weave a living ribbon of movement. Every night they rest in the trees, hundreds of them huddled together for warmth. They tremble in the darkness, their wings overlapping like scales, breathing in unison. At dawn, the cold vanishes and the trees come alive. 1,000 wings unfurl, trembling, shining like fire. Their bodies are delicate, but their resilience is unmatched. They navigate according to the angle of the sun, adjusting each flap as the day progresses. When the clouds obscure the light, they follow the faint whisper of Earth's magnetic field, perceived in nerve fibers no larger than dust. Each monarch is born already knowing where to go. Finally, after months of flight, the survivors reach the highlands of central Mexico. Here the air becomes cold and still. The mountains rise like walls of shadow, their slopes covered with ancient firs. This is the end of the road. This is home. As the sun sets, the first monarchs descend into the forest. They cling to trunks, to branches, to one another. Its wings close and the forest darkens. Not with the night, but with wings, thousands more arrive, then millions. In a matter of days, the green forest transforms into a raging inferno. Every tree burns with colors, orange, gold, and black. Butterflies cluster together for warmth, forming dense carpets that sway in the mountain breeze. When the wind picks up, they ripple like embers. When sunlight passes through the canopy, they sparkle. For months they remain here, barely moving. Their hearts slow, their wings stiffen. Beneath the trees, the ground is soft with their fallen, torn wings, curled bodies, and unmoving eyes. Yet even now, the cost of their journey nourishes the earth. Their tiny forms, rich in nutrients from 1,000 flowers, return to the earth. The fir trees drink from their decomposition. In spring, the forest blooms more brightly. The death of the monarchs has already given way to the next life. When the temperature rises again, the great turmoil begins. The survivors awaken, their wings trembling once more. They drink the dew, stretch out, and launch themselves upwards in bright bursts. It's time to go north. They rise above the forest canopy and return to the sky, following the path of their ancestors. One by one, they begin to die along the way. The journey back is longer than their lives can endure, yet it does not end. Each one lays eggs on milkweed leaves before they fall. Another generation will continue where it left off. The chain remains intact. Weeks later, new caterpillars hatch, striped in black, white, and yellow. They feed voraciously on the green leaves of milkweed. They grow quickly, molting repeatedly until they hang upside down and motionless. Then the transformation begins. Within each jade chrysalis, a new monarch is formed. The wings are barely visible through the exoskeleton. When it opens, the butterfly emerges, damp and trembling. It waits for the sun, slowly unfurling its wings. Then, with a few hesitant flaps, it rises into the wind. The cycle begins again. No single monarch completes the journey alone, but together they create a chain that spans continents. Through farms and forests, mountains and plains, their movement shapes entire ecosystems. The flowers they visit bloom because of them. The seeds they carry extend far beyond their reach. Even their deaths enrich the soil that feeds the next generation of life. As the sun sets over the mountains of Mexico, the forest glows once more. The monarchs settle into their final sleep, gently folding their wings, and the air fills with the soft whisper of millions of them resting together. Above, the world opens wide and blue. For every migration in the sky, there is one at sea. For every monarch, a whale. For every fragile wing, a fin that carves the depths. The journey never ends, it just changes shape. The sea is dark and endless. Beneath her glassy skin moves a shadow, immense, slow, deliberate. A humpback whale, Megaptera novae anglii, born in warm tropical waters, now glides across the frigid expanse of the polar sea. Its breath rises like mist against the cold air, a brief cloud that vanishes in the wind. Around it float icebergs whose lower parts shine turquoise in the dim light. The whale exhales once more and then sinks down into stillness. For months it has been feeding, gorging itself on krill and small fish in these rich northern waters. Each gulp swallows entire schools. It opens its mouth wide, its folded throat expanding like a net. The water rushes in, and then its large tongue presses upwards, filtering it through the barbel plates. These flexible combs capture marine life. The swarm of krill shimmering pink in the green gloom, oblivious to the leviathan among them. The whale turns slowly, mouth agape, its flippers slicing arcs of light. But the season is ending. The sun sets each day, the ice thickens, and the food will soon vanish beneath the cold. It's time to go. The whale turns south. It will travel over 16,000 kilometers from the end of the world to the tropical seas. It will not eat again until its return. From now on, every movement will come from its reserves. It has prepared well. Her body is bloated from the fat gained during months of abundance. The days go by. The sea changes. From grey and cold, it transforms into blue and warm. Schools of fish shimmer beneath its passage. Dolphins join it for a while, fluttering like silver shadows around its fins. It moves at a steady pace, rising every few minutes to breathe. His breaths leave a trail across the ocean, brief and rhythmic signatures of life in the void. Sometimes other whales respond. Their deep, resonant notes travel through the depths, carrying messages for hundreds of miles. The humpback whale's song is unique. It's a haunting pattern of moans and cries. Each town sings a different version. Each year the song evolves. The males sing most in the calm lagoons where they compete for mates, their voices rising and falling in intricate refrains. But even here, far from the breeding grounds, she hums softly as she travels. Weeks pass. The ocean warms. It is approaching the equator. Around them, the water teems with life. Plankton blooms in the sunlight. Jellyfish pulse like lanterns. Tropical fish scatter beneath their fins. Their destination lies ahead, shallow, sun-drenched lagoons where new life is born. Here, in the calm waters of the Pacific, she gives birth. The calf emerges tail first, gliding into the world, guided by its mother's touch. It is small, weighing only a few tons, but already strong enough to swim. It surfaces for its first breath, filling the newborn's lungs. The mother stays close, encircling it with her enormous body, protective. In these waters there is warmth and safety, but there is no food. Whales don't eat here. For the mother, each heartbeat consumes the fat she stored up north. Days turn into weeks. The pup grows, nourished by thick, creamy milk. It learns when to surface, when to dive, and how to stay close when sharks approach. The mother watches every turn of the calf, guiding it with pushes and calls. Every night under the moon, they rest in shallow waters, their bodies drifting with the tide. But danger lurks even here. One morning, the sea trembles with distant cries. Orcas, a pod on the hunt. The mother gathers her strength and positions her calf between herself and the depths. The orcas approach, elegant and black, with their white spots shining in the sun. The mother whips her tail, striking the water with a sound like thunder. Waves crash outwards. The orcas dive and then surface again, coordinated, tireless. For hours, the chase continues until the whales reach shallow waters, where the killers can't follow them. The orcas are retreating, but not without leaving scars. Survival comes at a cost. Calves are lost every year. Mothers weaken. Even so, nothing is wasted. Those who fall feed the sea. Their bodies sink, slowly turning in the blue, descending into the darkness until they reach the ocean floor. There, in the silent blackness, the corpse becomes a world. Hagfish and sleeping sharks arrive first, tearing at the flesh. Crabs and worms follow them, burrowing deep. Over the years, even the bones are consumed by bacteria that extract energy from their oils. The death of a single whale sustains life in the abyss for decades. Back in the warm, shallow waters, the survivors prepare to leave. The mother has grown thin. The calf, now strong, will have to learn to swim long distances. Together, they head south again. The waters around them teem with hundreds of whales, all undertaking the same long journey home. The northward migration is a pilgrimage through ever-changing worlds. The storms are rising. The waves are breaking. The calf rides alongside its mother, protected by her immense body. She breathes deeply. Each exhalation creates a cloud of mist above the waves. When she dives, the calf follows, learning to hold its breath longer each day. When she sings, it listens. This song will guide him across the oceans long after she's gone. Days turn into nights. The sea darkens and cools. Soon they return to their feeding grounds. The polar waters teem with life. Krill swarm in pink clouds. Whales open their mouths and leap upward among the sandbanks, water cascading from their jaws. For the calf, it is the first true feast. For the mother, it is salvation. The ocean teems with sounds, the creaking of ice, the rush of the current, the deep, resonant songs of whales echoing beneath the surface. Here, in the cold, dark depths, the great circle is complete. The fat will be stored again, strength recovered, and when the time comes, they will turn south again. The humpback whale's migration is not a simple movement. It is 16,000 kilometers of endurance year after year, generation after generation. As the light fades, the whale ascends to breathe for the last time. It emerges to the surface amidst a burst of foam and noise. Its fins rise before gliding back into the sea. The surface smooths out behind her and the world stands still. Further down, her song continues, and in its wake something stirs, following the same trend. The moonlight paints the sand silver. The tide murmurs softly against the shore. From the darkness beyond the waves, a shadow emerges. Ancient, slow, deliberate. A leatherback sea turtle, Dermocolis coriacea, rises from the waves. Its shell shines like wet stone, striated and black, while its enormous flippers dig furrows in the beach. It moves with effort, each movement laborious. This is a vestige of the age of giants, when reptiles dominated both the land and the sea. Even so, she is still here, unchanged, unfazed. Its shell is not hard like that of its smaller cousins, but leathery and flexible, designed to withstand the crushing pressures of the deep. Its body is warm enough to swim in icy waters and light enough to float across entire oceans. It has traveled from the cold waters of the North Atlantic, this narrow strip of sand in the tropics, returning to his birthplace. Under the moon it pauses. The air is heavy with salt and the scent of the sea. Then, with slow, careful movements of its hind flippers, it begins to dig. The sand is scattered in rhythmic bursts. The hole deepens until its movements become measured, almost ritualistic. She lays her eggs, round, gentle, glowing white in the dark. One after another they fall silently into the well. 100 fragile spheres. For an instant she rests, her body motionless. Her dark ancient eyes catch the starlight. Then she begins to cover the nest. The sand falls in waves, concealing the eggs. The hole disappears under its final sweep. It turns towards the sea. The return journey is slow. Each push leaves a mark in the sand until the next tide washes it away. Reaching the breakers, he stops once more. A wave curls around his fins, the foam hissing over his shell. She glides forward, weightless again, and disappears into the black water. For her, the world becomes light and movement. She swims effortlessly, her fins slicing through the waves like wings. Before her stretches the open ocean, vast, dark, teeming with danger and life. Weeks pass. She feeds on jellyfish, her throat lined with backward-pointing spines that grasp her slippery prey. She dives deep, deeper than any other reptile, up to 1,000 meters, where pressure crushes steel. Down here, in the cold and the darkness, he feels right at home. His blood carries oxygen efficiently, his muscles work tirelessly. He glides between worlds. The surface is sunny and bright, the depths silent and eternal. In the distance, on that same beach, the sand begins to tremble. The eggs have hatched. Tiny heads push their way through the grains, their fins beating frantically. Hatchlings, barely the size of a palm, emerge by the dozens. The night teems with movement. Hundreds of tiny figures rush toward the sea, propelled by the inst. They move towards the light. The moons glimmer on the water, the gleam of the horizon. But the beach isn't empty. Ghost crabs emerge from their burrows, snapping their claws. Seagulls circle overhead, their cries sharp and hungry. Tiny fish wait in the waves. Hatchlings scurry about. Of every 100 that emerge, only a few reach the sea. Out of every 1,000, perhaps one will survive to adulthood. Those that perish feed the crabs that till the sand, the birds that scatter their remains, and the fish that nourish the coral reefs. Their eggs enrich the dunes, giving rise to the vegetation that holds the coast firm against the wind. At sea, the survivors disappear into the blue. They drift for years, carried by invisible currents, living between the surface and the depths. Some travel across entire oceans before developing. They cross the Pacific, the Sargasso Sea, and round the Cape of Good Hope. They follow the temperature and the tide, always drawn towards abundance. The leatherback turtle's migration is one of the longest on Earth. From the tropics to the polar waters, they travel thousands of kilometers following jellyfish blooms. In cold seas, they burrow under the floating ice, their bodies warm and flexible. Its long, sharp fins move gracefully. And yet, despite all their strength, their journey is fraught with peril. Many never return. They drown in fishing nets. They choke on drifting plastic, mistaking it for their prey, jellyfish. Others are caught in storms and waves, their shells scarred by propellers. The cost of survival is high, but for this lineage, unbroken since the age of the dinosaurs, the instinct for survival remains absolute. Years later, a female returns. Perhaps she is the same turtle that emerged under that same moon, now older, scarred, covered in barnacles and enormous. She finds the same beach, guided by magnetism, because of some memory etched in their bones. The shore has changed, now brighter, noisier, but she remains still, crawling once more across the sand. Her large flippers sweep the air, her breath harsh against the wind. Again she digs, again she lays. The cycle repeats itself, as it has for 100 million years. When dawn arrives, their footprints shine in the light. 2 long trenches leading back to the sea. The tide begins to rise, sweeping them away. Soon the sand will be smooth again, as if it had never been. But beneath the surface, under the warmth of the sun, their eggs rest. Inside each one, a heartbeat intensifies. In time, the beach will stir once more. Above, the moon rises once more. The waves whisper against the sand. The ocean stretches vastly. Intact, its surface shines with light. The waves fade into the shimmering moonlit water. This is a world without end. The old sailors still wander around here. Life itself never stops moving. Miles away, another fight begins. Night covers the river. The fog curls over the surface, soft and silvery in the moonlight. Something is moving underneath, long, neat, silent. An eel, with its skin as smooth as wet silk, glides through the black water. Her body ripples like smoke, and her muscles flow in perfect rhythm. This is a European eel, Anguilla anguilla, and tonight it leaves its home. For years it has lived in the river, a shadow among the reeds, a hunter in the mud. It has known the torrent of spring floods and the stillness of winter mud. It has fed on worms, insects, and small fish. Now something deeper calls, a tug from the sea, from beyond the horizon. The silver eel begins its journey. Its skin darkens above, its belly pales. Perfect camouflage for the open ocean. Its eyes widen. Within it, the transformation begins. His stomach is dissolving. She will never feed again. Driven by a single purpose, to reach the sea and spawn, it moves downstream, joining others. Thousands glide beneath the moonlit surface, silent as ghosts. They slip past sleeping villages, under bridges and locks, through salt-laden estuaries. Each one follows the same pull, the same path written in the blood. At the river's mouth, the tide rises. The eels taste the brine, their first contact with the ocean. Here the current catches them. They swim toward it, relentless, impulsive. They move away, crossing the coast, the continental shelf, toward the vast Atlantic. The sea stretches on endlessly. The waves move beneath a moonless sky. In the dark depths, silhouettes stir. Plankton, jellyfish, the faint glow of bioluminescent life. Eels advance, their bodies shimmering dimly with a silvery blue. Their journey will take them thousands of kilometers, through the cold, through the current, through the endless void. Weeks turn into months. Storms pass overhead, invisible. The ocean grows deeper, darker, colder. Yet the eels never stop. They travel by instinct, guided perhaps by magnetic fields, or by the faint taste of water from a place they've never seen. That place is located in the heart of the Atlantic, the Sargasso Sea, a floating eddy of warm, crystal-clear water, interwoven with mats of golden algae. Here, sunlight filters through in ribbons. Below, the water glows a faint green. It is both nursery and graveyard. Silver eels arrive, weary and exhausted. Here they spawn. The males release clouds of milk, and the females scatter countless eggs in the water. The sea fills with invisible, silent, suspended life. For an instant, the water dances with silver dust, the promise of a new generation. Then it was over. The adults slide downstream. Their organs, already dissolving, fail completely. They have no strength to return. Their flesh melts into the sea. Their bones sink into the depths. The river wanderers are gone. But from their bodies, life begins again. The eggs hatch into tiny, transparent, delicate larvae shaped like willow leaves. They float among the sargassum seaweed, invisible to the light. Carried by the Gulf Stream, they drift north and east, traveling thousands of kilometers across the ocean. They neither hunt nor hide. They simply drift, feeding on microscopic life, growing slowly, gaining strength. Months pass. The seasons change. The larvae cross the vast Atlantic, invisible to the naked eye. As they approach the European coast, they begin to change again. Their bodies shrink and thicken. They become glass eels, transparent, slender and ghostly. In shallow waters under the moonlight, they shimmer like living crystal. The current carries them toward the estuaries, where the fresh water meets the tide. Here, instinct awakens once more. The eels head for the rivers. This is your home, even if you've never seen it. They go upstream, against the current, sliding between reeds, under stones, through every stream that takes them. Some climb through the damp grass to reach the ponds after the rain. Others hide in ditches, drains, and the dark channels of forgotten marshes. They are established in rivers throughout Europe, from the Mediterranean to the fjords of Norway. They live hidden, silent, and secretive lives. Time flows around them like water. They grow. Tiny bodies stretch into supple shapes, muscles undulating beneath glassy skin. They hunt at twilight, a drifting worm, a fallen insect, the smell of decay. Everything is captured with lightning precision. Their jaws clamp down, their bodies knot together and twist, tearing prey apart in the dark. Rivers are both cradle and glove. Pike and herons stalk in the shallows with deadly patience. Frogs vanish in sudden bites. Young eels, still translucent, are caught by trout and perch by chance. Only those quick enough to learn the art of invisibility survive. They hide in the mud during the day and emerge only when the world grows dark. They darken, grow heavier, feeding on what the river provides. Now they are called yellow eels, their skin a dark gold. In the stillness of the muddy riverbeds they wait. They sense the changing seasons, ice, thaw, flowering and decay. And then, one night, something awakens again. A pull, a memory, the ancient call of the sea. One by one they change again. Their bellies turn silver, their eyes widen, their bodies become more slender. They begin to move. It is the same journey, but in reverse, the same river, the same tide, the same call in the darkness. They are heading home, to a place they have never seen, but few will succeed. The dams block their path, the lights disorient them. Pollution is poisoning their water. Many get caught in the nets before reaching the sea. Even so, some still manage to escape. Those few return to the ocean. They vanish into the Atlantic, merging once more with the great current. And somewhere, in that vast circle of warm, golden seaweed, their journey will end as it began. At dawn over the river, the surface stirs. Under the reflection of the sky and the clouds, slender shapes move once again. They glow faintly in the light. The next generation, born from the depths, brought home by the sea. Miles away, a similar odyssey unfolds in the sky. The desert remains motionless under a blazing sun. The sand ripples like water, extending endlessly in all direction. The heat shines on the dunes. Life hides in the shadows, in the cracks, in rare clumps of scrub. and in the silence something changes. Little, green, almost invisible. A desert locust, Schistocerca gregaria. Its antennae twitch, its legs curl, it leaps. Alone it seems insignificant, a pale green insect in a vast world of sand and wind. But the desert remembers rain. Clouds swirl on the horizon, dense and low. Murmurs of thunder, the air thickens with the scent of dampness and dust. Then the rain falls. The cracked earth drinks it in eagerly. Seeds that have lain dormant for years awaken overnight. Grass bursts through the sand. Flowers bloom, the desert turns green, and with this brief abundance, a transformation begins. The solitary lobster feels it first, a profound change within. Its color darkens, shifting from soft green to burnished gold. Its wings harden, its body lengthens, its mind changes. Where it once fled from others, it now seeks them out. On the other side of the desert, thousands more are experiencing the same metamorphosis. The touch of one leg against another releases serotonin, transforming not only the body but also the brain. The solitary figure becomes a swarm. By day, they gather. At dusk, the ground ripples with movement, and at nightfall, millions move together. The swarm rises with warm winds, turning the sky into a living, moving cloud. The sun darkens behind its wings. The sound intensifies, a dry, endless hiss like rain on metal. They are unstoppable now. Drawn by the scent and the heat, by the green glow of the growing plants, they move north from Somalia, across the Red Sea into Arabia, or west toward the Sahel and Niger. Monsoon winds continue across Ethiopia, Kenya, Sudan, and beyond. When they descend, the transformation of the land is immediate. A field of millet becomes stubble in minutes. Trees are stripped bare, their bark chewed until it splinters. Shrubs disappear. Even the spines of cacti are gnawed away. The world beneath them fades from green to brown and then to silence. But in the midst of this storm, chaos also reigns. Hunger is relentless. Those in front devour first. Those behind are left with the dust. Wings fray upon impact, legs break. Exhaustion claims many. Their bodies fall, fragile and spent, nourishing the earth beneath. Death is constant. The fallen plants decompose rapidly in the heat, their soft tissues releasing nitrogen and phosphorus into the soil. Within weeks, new shoots will sprout from the dust. Predators also sense the opportunity. At the desert's edge, bee-eaters appear, their wings shimmering in turquoise and gold. They make their way through the swarm, snatching locusts out of the air. Hawks swoop down with surgical precision, their talons closing on thrashing bodies. On the dunes, spiny-tailed lizards wait motionless, catching anything that falls. As the sun sets, thousands of bats emerge, their leathery wings streaking across the sky. They eat until their stomachs are full. Even so, it's not enough. For every lobster eaten, 100 escape. The swarm advances. Over the Gulf of Aden, they cross the sea, billions of fragile bodies carried by the wind. Some fall into the waves, their wings soaked, sinking like rain. Fish rise to the surface to feed, seagulls dive. Even here, the dead support the living. The days go by. They reach the highlands of Yemen and then move on to Oman, Iran, and Pakistan. Farmers light bonfires to scare them away. Children play drums. Nothing matters. When the swarm lands, the ground darkens. The locusts cling to every surface. Bark, wall, rock. They chew until only dust remains. And then, when it's all over, they move again. The females, laden with eggs, seek out damp soil. In wadis and shallow depressions, they dig small holes with their abdomens, where they lay clusters of eggs, 50, 100, sometimes more. A single female can lay thousands throughout her lifetime. They cover the holes, pressing the sand down hard, then rise up into the wind once more. Your task is done. Most will die within days, their wings shattered and their bodies too weak to fly. Below, life stirs anew. Eggs hatch in waves. Tiny, wingless grasshoppers, bright yellow and black, emerge from the ground, crawling over one another with an insatiable hunger. They feed on what's left. When the last of the green fades, they march together across the sand, forming bands that move like flowing oil. They grow quickly, molting 5 times until wings form that lift them into the air. The cycle begins again. But the story of the swarm is not just a story of endless conquests. It's also a matter of balance. Its destruction creates renewal. The waste they leave behind enriches the soil, preparing it for the next rain. The animals that feed on it grow stronger. Even those who suffer from their arrival sometimes harvest them. They are roasted, dried, and ground into flour. In times of famine, they become food. By the time the winds shift and the rains subside, what remains of the swarm disperses across the continents. Some venture out to sea and vanish. Others find new deserts, new land, new rain. When morning breaks over the dunes, the world falls silent. Only a few broken wings gleam in the sand. But beneath the surface, in the damp hollows where rain once fell, life is reborn. Tiny eggs throb in the warmth, ready to hatch. Soon the rains will return. The earth will darken, the seeds will awaken, and the locusts will grow again. The cycle continues. Life goes on, endless, intertwined. Meanwhile, far to the north, the tundra stretches out white, intact. A frozen ocean beneath a pale sky. The ice sparkles in the morning sun, cracking under the weight of the snow. The wind whistles through ridges and valleys, carrying the scent of distant rivers and the salt of the sea. Here life pounds the hard snow with its hooves. A herd of caribou, Rangifer tarandus, emerges on the horizon. Hundreds, then thousands. This is a living river of hide and antlers. The males lead the way, their tall undulating antlers trailing velvet with every step. The females and their calves follow, cue movement. The ears rotate, eyes alert. Every step is a negotiation with the frozen ground. Crevices hide beneath piles of snow. The ice waits to break, and beneath the snow lie predators, watching and waiting. The wolves move in the shadows, silent, determined. The pack does not panic. He can't. This is not a choice, it's instinct. Caribou move in unbroken lines. The calves wobble on their thin legs, learning the rhythm of walking with each faltering step. The mothers graze as they walk, plucking lichen from the rocks and moss from the stones. The milk hardens in the cold before it flows from their bodies, tiny droplets crystallizing in the chill. The young man huffs and puffs, drop, raise, continue. They crossed frozen rivers as the ice crunched beneath their bodies. Thousands of hooves strike the surface, some break through. The cold claims them instantly. A calf disappears beneath the ice, a solitary splash. Then, silence. Wolves circle near the banks, snapping their jaws. The fallen feed the earth, the river, the scavengers. The crows descend in black flocks, pulling at the frozen fur. The wolves drag their prey to hidden dens. Beneath the snow, the earth absorbs nutrients, preparing for the thaw. The pack faces the blizzards without hesitation. The snow erodes their fur, biting into their eyes and noses. Antlers and ears glisten with ice. Helmets turn the snow into powder, carving a path over mountains and valleys. Each day brings hunger and fatigue. Muscles ache, lungs burn, but the herd moves forward in unison. 5,000 kilometers stretch ahead. This is the longest migration in the north. The young grow stronger as the journey progresses. The wolves attack again, a flash of teeth in the snow. The mothers chase them away with swift kicks, their powerful forelegs striking with deadly precision. The young learn quickly. One stumble can mean death, one pause can mean loss. Predation is constant yet balanced. It ensures that strength survives, resilience prevails, and those who fall do not disappear completely. Their bodies feed the scavengers, the soil, and the lichens beneath the frozen snow. The herd slows as the tundra rises toward the mountain passes. Blizzards swirl, and snow and ice cascade down the ridges. Visibility is reduced to just a few meters. The caribou huddle together, their antlers intertwined and their heads lowered against the wind. The breaths form clouds, mingling, rising and vanishing. The wolves keep their distance, aware of the strength of unity. Each individual plays a role: leader, follower, guardian, and apprentice. Those too weak are left behind. Seasonal changes shape migration. Spring melts the rivers and reveals streams full of new vegetation. Summer brings insects, the lichens soften, and the calves grow stronger. Autumn winds howl, carrying the scent of frost of the ice that will soon arrive. Winter drives the herd south, across frozen plains, over ice-cracked rivers, toward warmer valleys. The cost of survival is enormous. Thousands of people die every year, under the ice, beneath the fangs, under a storm. However, without these losses, the ecosystem would be disrupted. Crows, foxes, and wolves depend on the fallen carcasses. The decomposing bodies enrich the soil. The nutrients they carry feed mosses and lichens, which in turn feed insects, birds, and smaller mammals. The herd arrives at the riverbanks, swollen from the spring thaw. The hooves churn the water into foam. Some cross easily, others with difficulty. A young bull slips and is swept downstream. Instinct keeps the herd moving. The mothers urge the calves forward. Wolves lurk, but the march continues. Each crossing is both a peril and an adventure. And beyond the river lies the promise of the grass, as a refuge of continuous life. As the herd ascends, the aurora dances overhead, ribbons of green and purple against a deep indigo sky. The light grazes the snow, flickers between the antlers, illuminates wisps of vapor rising from the flanks. In this icy theater, the herd moves like a living river. From above, the earth is a mosaic of migrations. The rivers sparkle, the forests are glowing, deserts breathe, whales follow the currents, salmon swim upstream, the wildebeest rumble across the plains, monarch butterflies move with the wind, and here the caribou march across white expanses. The Arctic is alive. Every year the pulse repeats itself. Instinct guides survival. Death nourishes life. Over the Arctic, the first light touches distant glaciers. The herd vanishes into a white mist. Their passage is marked only by hoofprints and the faint rustle of snow. The ice trembles in the wind. Beyond, continents turn, oceans shimmer, clouds pulse. Every migration, from the tiniest insect to the largest mammal, is part of this story. Every journey is linked to the same truth. Resistance demands sacrifice. A solitary Arctic tern appears, gliding effortlessly in the strong winds. And so it all starts again. Survival is movement, survival is sacrifice.